Hello, welcome back to the Too Tall Sports Podcast. Glad to have you in here today. My 2 cent segment is going to be about week 2 in the NFL. Just wanted to mention a few topics that I liked, or at least I saw over the weekend, and the overarching theme here. We have to remember who we are in the NFL. And week 2 kind of brought some of us back down to earth and maybe boosted some other of us to see really how good we are. So, for example, I'll start with New Orleans. After a classic overreaction in week 1, let's talk about how the Saints came back to earth in week 2. Specifically, Jameis Winston. So Jameis, he had a huge week 1, and he had 5 touchdowns against the Packers. And then he followed that up with 0 touchdowns this week against Carolina Panthers. I saw a funny meme over the weekend where Jameis's famous celebration is he has this thing called eating W's. And if you're watching this on YouTube, it's like a W and he eats it to eat wins, basically. That's like his thing. And then there was a picture next to that of him holding the iPad playbook thing that all the NFL teams had from last year, where he was a backup, like, what the hell am I doing here? So we got extreme Jameis in week 1, and then we got normal Jameis, or at least less than Jameis in week 2. This is who Jameis is. He is going to throw the ball to the other team. For example, he had 111 yards on 11 of 22 passing and 2 interceptions. So he came back to earth. Big surprise. He was also sacked 4 times as well. So, week 1, Jameis only threw 150 yards. Yes, he had 5 touchdowns, but he only threw 150 yards or 148. And this week, 111. So Jameis is still Jameis. He did have LASIK, apparently, either last year or the year before. And he was the first quarterback to ever go 30 picks and 30 touchdowns. Hopefully his vision is more 20/20 now and not his touchdown to interception ratio. But we'll see. I think he'll be fine. It's just everyone got all hyped about Jameis. Let's temper our expectations on him. Let's flip over to the other side of Monday Night Football, which was Aaron Rodgers and the Packers. A lot of people overreacted and forgot who Aaron Rodgers was, and rightfully so. He had a very tumultuous offseason. He didn't play any preseason at all, barely had any practice time until he reported to the training camp. But they played against the rebuilding Lions, and, well, Jared Goff is less than stellar, shall we say. And historically, Aaron Rodgers is 18-5 against the Lions. So he owns them. And Aaron Rodgers was only, the MVP about 7-8 months ago. It's not like he forgot who he was, right? So we're remembering who Aaron Rodgers is. Still MVP caliber. He made some incredible throws last night, 4 touchdowns. Aaron Jones was all over the place. Devontae Adams had a huge game. Even Tunyon, the tight end, was everywhere. And Aaron was making Aaron Rodgers type throws. Obviously, he's not going to be able to repeat the success he had last year. Too much turmoil in the offseason, too much dysfunction in the front office between him and them. They don't give him the weapons that he desperately needs. So I don't see this going as well as last year. They got a tough test at San Francisco, even though San Francisco is banged up a little bit. We'll see what happens to the Packers. They don't look, their defense is bad right now. They don't look like a championship caliber team. And so they're just kind of, I think, holding it together all year. I don't know if the Lions game tells us anything, but they're going to hold it together. And Rodgers is still Rodgers. Let's talk about the Jets for a second. If you in general watch a quarterback's pro day, not the combine, but their pro day leading up to the draft, you get to see some spectacular things from that quarterback, like big time throws with nobody on defense and nobody guarding you, or there's no pressure. There's nobody guarding the receivers. So they look pretty good in those pro days. And Zach Wilson is one of those guys that looks good in a pro day. Every year there are busts in the first round, whether it's quarterbacks or position players, or, there always are busts in the first round. I'm not saying Zach Wilson's a bust yet. It's only been 2 games. 2 things that stick out. The Jets are terrible, and that organization doesn't develop anybody, right? And we'll talk about Sam Darnold in a second, which I have to give praise to. As usual, Bill Belichick faced a rookie quarterback in Zach Wilson, and he dialed up a great defense against him and dominated Zach Wilson to the tune of 4 interceptions thrown by Wilson. His head coach, Robert Saleh, the Jets, said that Zach needed to be better at the boring throws and make the easier throws instead of going for the home run every play, which is very true. And you can tell on some of those picks that Wilson threw, you're just like, you're just trying to hit a grand slam and nobody's on base. It just doesn't make sense. You're giving the ball away to the other team, which, as people know, if you turn the ball over in the NFL, it's not going to go well for you. At BYU, you can get away with some of that stuff. You can throw downfield and get lucky sometimes, or hope the defense isn't paying attention, or you catch somebody off guard because the talent just isn't as good. When you play in the NFL, you're playing against some good dudes on defense that will just easily pick off just bad decision making by the quarterback. So I'm not saying Zach Wilson's a bust yet. However, he looks the worst of the QBs of this rookie class so far. Let me talk about Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold has had a great 2 first weeks of the season, and back to it, reminding us of who people are. This just reminds us how bad the Jets were. I mean, Adam Gase was his coach and basically was the beneficiary of being one of Peyton Manning's offensive coaches during his career and boosted Adam Gase to being a guy. No, he was terrible as a Jets coach, and he was terrible as a developer of Sam Darnold as well. Now, you can't blame everything on the coaches. Sam's making all the throws, and he was not that great for the Jets, right? He just wasn't. And it was funny last night on Sunday night when they're asking Zach Wilson if he saw ghosts out there, because infamously, Sam Darnold said he was seeing ghosts on a couple of plays for the Jets. It's just not good for the Jets. But Sam Darnold, it just shows you when you have some competent NFL coaches and you got talent around you, you can be successful and effective. He got his revenge against the Jets in week 1, and he dominated a good Saints team on Sunday, throwing for over 300 yards and 2 touchdowns in week 2. So I guess it kind of tells us maybe Sam Darnold could be a good player in this league. I don't know. But when you have talent around you, you can be something for sure. It just also reminds us that where you play is much more important than who you're always playing with. It's not so much about individual talent. Maybe this is Sam Darnold's chance to change the narrative a little bit. So we'll see if he can do that in Carolina. The biggest surprise of the weekend has to be the Raiders, right? You have that big, crazy win against the Ravens last week on Monday Night Football at home at Allegiant Stadium. Gruden couldn't find the kicker. He pulled the offense off, put him back on, took a penalty, all the craziness of the Raiders last year. So okay, all of that was a fluke, right? They're going to go to Pittsburgh in week 2 and lose. Well, they didn't. They beat Pittsburgh. So they have 2 wins against 2 AFC North powerhouse teams, the Ravens and the Steelers, normal playoff teams. That's pretty impressive for them. Derek Carr has been great so far. If you go back to last year, the last 2 games of that last year and 2 games this year, so the last 4 total regular season games, he's thrown for over 300 yards in all 4 of those games. He looks really good. The tight end, obviously, Darren Waller's been great. They figured out the deep threat in Henry Ruggs, who they were hoping for. And they did this all the last week without Josh Jacobs, their running back, who is their starting running back. The defense looks much improved. So this Raiders team might be the real deal. I don't know. They fool us a lot, and they've done this before where they've started 0-2 and then disaster hit. I'm not sure how to feel about John Gruden, if he can coach in this league against the new elite coaches that there are, but the Raiders look much improved. So props to them. Last thing I want to mention this week is we're also reminded about 2 non-surprises in this league. Tua Tagovailoa and Carson Wentz are both hurt again. Let me disclaim this real quick. I do not wish bad on anyone, and I want no one to get hurt in any sport. I want everyone at their best and most effective athlete selves they can be. But this is a recurring theme, unfortunately, for these 2 guys. Tua has been hurt since college. I don't believe in him as a quarterback. I don't see the it factor. I don't see the big arm. I don't see the special. I don't see what people see in Tua. Yes, he's accurate, but I don't know. I don't know if he's a franchise level quarterback. I don't see it in Tua. Wentz we'll see what Miami decides to do with Tua long term, but he's hurt again. He's small. I don't know. I'm not sure what to make of Tua. Carson Wentz, on the other hand, got hurt getting twisted around on a tackle, and he tried to make a spectacular throw while falling to the ground and got hurt. He is also in the Zach Wilson school of thought. Even though Wentz has been in the league for longer, he plays hero ball sometimes. And a lot of these injuries can be avoided by Carson Wentz taking what the defense gives him, taking a sack, and not putting themselves in harm's way like he's been doing. And he got hurt again. Carson Wentz, the problem I have is he's shown you how good he can be. He was MVP caliber with the Eagles that year when they went 13-3, and then Nick Foles took over and they won the Super Bowl. So he's capable leading up into that injury of being an MVP type of quarterback. However, he's not the best decision maker with his, thought process on either getting down, getting out of bounds, not making bad throws. He tries too hard. And I get it. There's a lot of pressure on him. He was a high draft pick in Philadelphia. It was really tough on him media-wise and all that. And Nick Foles was the savior, and it was a tough spot for him. But what you can't fix is recklessness. And Carson Wentz is reckless on the field with his body and his decision-making. I don't know what the Colts are going to be able to do with Carson Wentz long-term. I don't think he's the long-term answer. I think he's partially damaged goods. I hate saying that because I want him to do well, but I'm not. I just don't know what is his future in the NFL if he keeps getting hurt like this. So that's my 2 cents for the week. Biggest surprise of the weekend has to be the Raiders. We'll see if they can sustain it. But I think we all need to calm down as we all get crazy after week one. We are reminded who people are, and usually people fall back into the median average of their talent, whether it's the teams or individuals. So exciting first couple weeks of football. I think there have been some good games and definitely plenty more to come. So thank you for listening to my 2 cents this week, and let's get to our interview with Randall Thompson, the founder of Dugout Mugs. Check it out. Ladies and gentlemen, football is back, NFL and college, and all of your NBA and NHL and playoff baseball needs over the next few months. And the Too Tall Sports podcast is proudly brought to you by Vegas Sports Advantage. VegasSportsAdvantage.com. Use my promo code TOOTALL to get 25% off all of their texting packages. So what that means is they are going to text you right before a slate of games will start. Let's say for football Sunday, the games usually start, the first round starts at 10 a.m. They'll text you at about 9:50, 9:55. You got to be ready on your computer or on your app, wherever you bet your games, whichever sports book or sporting bets website you use your own. This is just a service that's going to text you their top picks based on the algorithm that they have set up. They wait till all the big sharp money comes in, and then they give you their best bet or two right before the games start at different times of the day. So they do text you the picks. You take care of them on your own and bet however much you want. They usually recommend 1 or 2 units of your normal, $50, $100, whatever you like to bet. Use your own judgment on that. However, VegasSportsAdvantage.com. Use my promo code TOOTALL. That's TOOTALL for 25% off all of the packages that they give you. They'll text you the picks. You get a certain number of picks, and then it'll run out, and you can use my promo code again if you want to. But 25% off. They're awesome. I use them. I make money off them all the time. I use my own sports book that I've chosen to put my bets on. But Vegas Sports Advantage is legit. They use their algorithms. Check them out. VegasSportsAdvantage.com. Promo code TOOTALL. This is the Too Tall Sports podcast. Thank you for joining me today. My interview is with Randall Thompson. He is the founder of Dugout Mugs, which is a cool concept. He explains the idea in the interview, but basically he took a wooden baseball bat and cut it in half and turned it into a mug that you can drink out of. So kind of a cool idea. They have a new line of stainless steel mugs coming out, kind of playing off the aluminum bat thing. So a lot of cool stuff happening, and a cool story of how, kind of a rags to riches type of thing after he played professional baseball for a year. So really cool to talk to Randall about Dugout Mugs. And as always, you can follow me at Too Tall Sports Podcast. That's on Instagram. On Twitter, it's at Too Tall Sports. On YouTube, check out Too Tall Sports Podcast. Please subscribe. And if you could, leave a comment, a like, share it with somebody. That'd be awesome. If you subscribe there and hit the bell notification, you'll get notified every time we drop an episode, which is Thursday mornings at 9 a.m. Pacific time. So just head over to Too Tall Sports Podcast on YouTube. Definitely need some more subscribers. We could use them. So please share with a friend if you get the chance to do that. On the audio side, if you just want to listen, you don't want to look at me, I totally understand. You can go to Apple Podcast and you can just type in Too Tall Sports Podcast. If you could, I mention every episode, but I got to remind you guys, I got to stay on you. Scroll all the way down if you haven't already. Hit the 5-star if you can. That helps boost the show, get some more exposure for us so we can be one of the top podcasts on Apple. And if you'd like to leave a review, even better. I love reviews as well. So hit the stars and hit the reviews. I really appreciate it. We're also on Spotify. You can check us out there. We're on Amazon, we're on Google Play, we're on Pandora. Wherever you listen to your podcast, just type in Too Tall Sports Podcast and you can find us there. Really appreciate it and enjoy my interview with Randall Thompson. Too Tall. All right, welcome back to the Too Tall Sports Podcast. My next guest is the founder of Dugout Mugs. His company is officially licensed by Major League Baseball. They are number 719 on the Inc. 5000 list. He played his college ball at Florida Tech and 1 year professional baseball with the Toronto Blue Jays organization. And he's here to tell us the story of how a simple idea turned into Dugout Mugs. He is Randall Thompson. What's up, Randall? Thanks for being on the show, man.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, definitely. Glad to get your story, especially a former minor leaguer and turned into a businessman, an entrepreneur. So it's always great to have somebody on that came from the same, background or similar background as me. So
yeah, it's cool. Great to be here.
I guess to start, as far as Dugout Mugs go, right off the bat, like, can you believe how far you guys have taken this company already? Just from, like I mentioned off the top, a simple idea like that. How do you view it right now?
I really don't reflect on it very much.
Yeah.
I very much feel like I'm just still in the game. I'm hard to read the label when you're in the bottle is the analogy that I use. And then like when you kind of get in the zone of just like paint rolling a wall or something, you just want to knock it out. And so you kind of just head down and you don't step back and look at the full paint of the wall until you kind of get pretty far along in the process. I don't know. There's a whole bunch of analogies, but I really don't reflect on it. And, I think I'm just kind of in it so much that, I'm in execution mode that I feel like if in my heart, I'm a philosopher. I love to philosophize about things. And sometimes I do that too much. And I just don't want to get caught up in just thinking about things too much. I just want to execute all the time. So I really don't think about it too much.
Okay. Hey, totally cool. You're in it, man. You got to be in the moment. That's great.
Yeah.
We'll come back to Dugout Mugs in a little bit. But I do want to get a little bit of your background as well. So I know there's a ton of colleges in Florida, and I had never heard of Florida Tech, actually. So I was curious to see what made you choose there to play baseball at, and kind of what was your experience as a baseball player there?
I guess it more so chose me. I was a 3-year junior varsity player. And by the time I was a senior, I moved over from third base, and then I started pitching. I just kind of threw decently hard at that time. And I had no offers other than a walk-on spot at Florida Tech, which is a D2 school in Melbourne, Florida.
Uh-huh.
I grew up in Florida, and I never heard of Florida Tech either. So I didn't want to go. I wanted like the big school feel of things. So I fought my dad on it. My dad wanted me to at least give it a shot, which I'm glad I did. It ended up being a great decision. And obviously you look back on the dots connected and you're like, oh man, that was a great decision. But either way, I really enjoyed my time at Florida Tech. I had great coaches. I got an opportunity to play right away. The kind of the smallness of the school actually ended up being one of my favorite things about it. It felt like such a better, tighter knit community rather than some big university. And, yeah, just in general, I couldn't say enough great things about Florida Tech.
Sure, definitely. I mean, you found your niche. That's awesome. Sometimes the big schools, you don't get to play, like you said. So you get to play right away. It's worth it. So you were a senior signed with the Blue Jays. I know you're only there for 1 year, but if you could describe your 1 year in minor league baseball, how would you describe it?
I didn't have the best experience in minor league baseball. In fairness, I played in the Gulf Coast League, and then I went through 10 weeks of 9 weeks and 3 days of an extended spring training, and they decided to let me go. And the fourth day, or 2 or 3 days before they announced teams for the short season of things, which was just a scumbag move. Looking back on that now,
100%, dude. Extended spring training is the worst. It's everybody that's left over that didn't break camp. It is miserable in Florida. So
yeah, and it's like paint, watching paint dry. It really is, because it's the same thing every single day. And I'm living in a hotel with another dude just 5 feet away from me. Luckily, I liked my roommate, but either way, what I think ultimately got me with minor league baseball was just the boredom that came along with it.
Yeah.
You're at least in the Gulf Coast League and extended spring training. your days start at like 6 a.m, and then most days you're done by like 2 o'clock at the latest. And the amount of downtime you have with absolutely no money, it's just like the boredom just gets to you, to the point where like I was buying magic books trying to learn magic. That's how bored I was. And so I don't know, just not a great experience. But when I look back on it and I reflect on the guys that I met and some of the memories that I have, and then most importantly, the feather that I have in my cap for the rest of my life that I'm able to lean into, that I did play professional baseball. There's a lot of great things that came from it. And then lastly, I also look back on it and I say to myself, there's not very many professions, if any professions in the world, that you can give a hard 3 or 4 years and the potential financial upside of it is $600,000 a year on the minimum of side of things. So when I look at it that way now, and knowing how hard it is to generate $600,000 of income, and I have a chance to do that as playing a game, then it's really not as bad as I thought it was. But that's coming from 30. I'm either 31 or 32. I don't know, but the 32-year-old, I think, Randall, rather than 22-year-old Randall.
Sure. No, I totally agree with you, man. So you end up going back to Florida Tech to be the pitching coach. It doesn't seem like you really wanted to coach, but were you just kind of going back to hold you over, just to figure out what you wanted to do?
Yeah. So when I first got out, I got a couple jobs, and you know, when you kind of get out in the wild, so to speak, and you're like, wait a minute, like, this isn't what I know. This isn't what I want to do. Yeah. And you kind of go back to your default, and you're like, you know, well, first you have this grieving period where you're like, I'm not going to just be identified as a baseball guy. Like there's far more than that of me. And then you kind of go, oh, wait a minute, I kind of liked baseball. And so that I went through that phase where I was like, I need baseball back in my life. The most obvious fit seems to be coaching. I have a great relationship with the coaches at my old alma mater. They know how much I don't like my situation right now. It was a win-win for both sides. And it pretty much just turned into like, it took me 4.5 years to graduate college. It pretty much turned it into like 4.5 to 5.5 years. It was like one more year of college for me. I just partied and had a good time. And
why not, dude? Who cares? Yeah. 23 years old, whatever.
Right.
You know?
Right. Yeah. It was fun, but it wasn't for me. No.
Gotcha. So I read your story, and it goes that you lived with your sister and future brother-in-law doing an internship at an ad agency, and you were a server at a restaurant. So then tell us what happened during that time and how things turned for you after that.
Yeah. When I was coaching, I had a real itch to be creative. I've always had an itch to be creative. I've always liked the idea of owning a business. I like the word entrepreneur. I like the idea of it being an entrepreneur. And I kind of wanted to explore that side of things. And I thought maybe the best way to be creative every single day was work for an ad agency. So I found an internship at an ad agency. It was over in St. Pete. That's where my sister and now my brother-in-law live. They had a spare detached garage in their backyard that they converted into a studio apartment. And I rented it from them and worked the internship during the day, and then got a job as a waiter at night. And both kind of just collided at the same time into this, like, when I moved over there, I had no money and I was barely making any money flipping tacos, and just kind of everything collided. The internship fell apart. And the waiter job I ended up getting fired from. And so I was just kind of in my sister's backyard, no money, no job, no real direction of what I was going to do.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden how did the idea come up, or when did you figure out that you had something with a potential baseball bat?
When I was coaching, the hitting coach was cutting baseball bats in half. He was creating a training tool, and he's taking wooden baseball bats and cutting them in half with a handsaw. And there was a bunch of loose bat barrels just lying around in the dugout. And I picked one up and examined it. I said, you could probably, as you know, there's a natural cupping to the bat. I said, you could probably just keep taking that cupping down and turn that into a pretty cool mug. And that was kind of my MO of things. Is I always have ideas, I always have concepts, and I kind of just took that idea and concept and I just put it in my back pocket. And then in this moment of desperation, I have notebooks upon notebooks upon notebooks. And I kind of come across the mug idea, and I say, man, that seems simple enough that that's something that I could pursue. So I didn't have any money, but it ended up, I get a call. It's a guy. He says, hey, you applied for something like 3 months ago. Are you still looking for a job? I'm like, yeah. And it was to drive a paint delivery van. And so I took that job, and from like 6:30 in the morning to 2:30 in the afternoon, I would drive this paint delivery van. And then my idea was the rest of the time I would figure out how to bring a bat barrel mug to life and bring it to market. And that's how it ended up happening.
Did you start, like, I think you might've said like you bought a saw from Home Depot or something, like you were actually cutting bats, figuring out everything in that garage. Is that kind of how it went?
Yeah. My very first paycheck, I ordered 24 or 25 craft bats. And I went and bought a chop saw from Lowe's. And the very first, as I was cutting them for the very first time, was by my kitchen sink, and in that 300 square foot studio apartment. And I ended up buying a drill press, and I tried to drop the drill press on top of the mug without it being properly secured on there. And the drill bit kind of just gripped into the top of the bat barrel and flung it across that studio apartment, and just banged up against the wall. And I said, oh shit, man, I have no idea what I'm doing here. Like, I just spent $800 on this drill press. And I cleaned it up all nice, and I put it back in the box, and I taped it perfectly, and I just brought it back to Harbor Freight. And I said, in the second thought, I don't need this thing. But yeah, in the beginning, I tried to do it all myself, and it didn't make any sense to do that. Sure.
So once you figured out you might have something, how do you take that and make it into a business? Like, what were the next steps after that?
Oh man. So I had to find a small run manufacturer, somebody that would just run a small amount of these. And that's kind of the way that I've taken this whole approach in business is, how do I limit my risk of this? I didn't want to go and buy 10,000 units of these mugs. I had no idea if anybody was going to want them. So I found somebody that would just 100 of them for me. And they sent them my way, and I just started selling them online. Some of the first mugs that I was selling, there's a Instagram account that had a ton of followers. It was Baseball Lifestyle 101. And this was in 2016. And I paid Josh, I paid him $50 for a post. And like, now that's not going to ever happen. But like, that $50 of a post turned into like a couple $1,000 in sales. And I was like, all right.
Yeah. You got something.
Yeah. And so this, the same, you just kind of test things. I learn about Facebook ads, and that was pretty much the first 6 months of business of just testing a bunch of different stuff. And I ended up in the first 6 months doing about $70,000 of sales.
Great.
Yeah, not bad at all.
I mean, yeah, for sure. Obviously, it's working. So then, explain how, like, the logistical side of everything, like getting all the wood and like having inventory and the number of employees you have, and how the day-to-day factory works, all that stuff.
Like as it is today.
Yeah.
Oh man, it's pretty robust. I mean, it's grown into an operation that about 70 people make it go around on a daily basis. So I guess there's 3 major parts of the manufacturing process. One part is done in Quebec City, Canada. The wood gets shipped down to us, and then the other 2 parts are done in our facility in Winter Haven, Florida. I guess the most simplistic way of like describing what happens is we take a bat barrel. They're all blank. It's kind of like an empty canvas for us. Somebody goes online, buys a Mets mug. We take a blank Dugout mug. We put it onto one of our laser engravers, which is just I guess a fancy wood burner. And we place it on in the machine. We press a couple buttons, and it spits out a Mets mug for us. It gets wiped down. It gets inspected. It gets an MLB authenticated sticker. Gets put into our fulfillment department, and then somebody has a packing slip, grabs the packing slip, looks at it, sees it needs a Met mug, grabs the Met mug, puts it in a box, sends it out to the customer. I mean, that's an oversimplification of things, but that's the process.
That's awesome. No, it's really cool. Let's talk about your I think it's either your partner or CEO, Chris Denhart. How did you guys meet, and ultimately what led him to joining you on this Dugout Mugs journey?
So you might be part of it. I don't know if you're on Facebook or not, but the MILB Facebook page, I don't know if you're part of that.
Like the retired players?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So in 2016, and this is par for Chris. Chris always has a way of just like, weasel's a bad word, but like I'm just going to use it for this context of things. He finds a way to weasel his way into all sorts of things. And that group was one of them. I was just scrolling through my Facebook feed, and then he posted into that group in like 2016 and said, "Hey, I have Country Flow concert tickets that I'm trying to distribute. Is anybody interested in them or something like that?" And I was going to Country Flow, and so I was like, "Well, who is this guy?" So I click on his profile, and I see that he's in business, and I see like different things. So then, and this is like my first 4 or 5 months of business. And so then I Google him, and I see that he's sold millions of dollars of t-shirts online through Facebook. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm trying to learn how to sell stuff on Facebook.
Right.
So I send him a message, assuming that like he lived in Tampa and I was living in St. Pete. So I was like, oh, the heavens are speaking to me here. So I was like, hey man, yada, yada, yada. And so he's like, yeah, sure. I'm in a conference in St. Pete. If you want to swing by and we can talk about it. So I brought him one. We sat in the lobby, we drank a beer. He wasn't like overly interested in it. And kind of a little bit of back and forth. And by the time January of 2017, maybe February of 2017, we were both doing it together. So kind of bizarre and kind of weird, but that's just how it all came together.
That's interesting. That's cool. You guys found each other and in the same area too. What are the odds of that?
Yeah.
I know you love analogies. So I heard you on another interview say that shit is the best fertilizer.
For sure.
How do you apply that to your daily grind?
Well, you know it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think just athletes in general just have a better and higher understanding of how hard times make you better, and especially if you allow them to. Shit is the best fertilizer. I've kind of just realized that there's always a solution to all things. And I have a really, really, just like I have a difficult time reflecting on the past, because I'm either like here right now or I'm thinking about what's going on in the future.
Sure.
Which I think is underrated. I know that we have like history classes, and I think that like it would probably make a whole lot of sense that if we kind of talked about what the future looks like, because you could actually really increase your wealth if you really knew what was coming in the future, or what is in the future.
Right.
But kind of going off track there, but just as well as I do, I have a hard time just even thinking about what the problem is. As soon as I see what would be perceived as a problem, I just think to myself, okay, what can we do to actually solve this, and just move on from the next thing. So there's that side of it, but also just realizing that no matter what, there's going to be challenges in life. And most times it's just how you perceive the challenge that really, really matters. And and I hate it because it's so cliche, but it's just so true that it's just an opportunity to grow. That's all challenges are. And so that's why I love the saying shit is the best fertilizer. It's because ultimately, like, those hardships are helping you grow. And I have a lot of faith in that.
Exactly, man. You need fertilizer to grow. So there you go.
You definitely do.
Yeah. I thought you said something interesting recently, that how you talked about how rigid and kind of skeptical your dad was, and very realistic, almost like, not pessimistic, but just, more of he's not a dreamer like you were per se, or a risk taker. Right. So how has it allowed you to kind of, I guess, grow up with that mentality with him, but also it's a different generation way of thinking. Sometimes in the past, they just didn't have these kind of ideas and stuff like that. So how do you kind of conceptualize the way your dad thinks and the way you think?
Well, I think first and foremost, I think I was born with kind of a dreamer's mentality. And I think that in some ways, and you would maybe be able to relate to this, but to be a high performer in any sort of situation, you have to kind of dream, because dreaming is a cousin of confidence. And that, like, you gotta believe that you're going to get to a certain level in order to actually get to that level. And you have to dream in order to have the confidence. I don't know. It's not a full thought, but my dad, the interesting thing about my dad is, like, he was entrepreneurial. He owned a bar, he owned duplexes, but for some reason, it never like really was like a huge launching pad for him. I think he did just okay with it. I don't ever really get the full story of things.
Sure.
But he does have a very rigid way of looking at life and thinking that this is the way it is. As soon as it comes in, it goes out. This person's trying to screw you. And like, it's like, yeah, I hear you, but like, I don't know. So there's two parts of it. I think I was born to be a dreamer, and then I'm a result of an overcorrection of my dad, but not to a fault though, because I've met plenty of people that just like they're to a fault. They're optimistic, and you're just like, dude, it's not working out for you. Like you gotta hang it up. So I get that from them, in which I'm blessed that I get that from them, that I can see the writing on the wall, and I have enough feel to realize that, like, hey, it's over. But at the same time, I've got enough belief in myself, enough dreaming in myself, that it's worked out to actually be a perfect mix of things.
Yeah, no, that's great, man. You have to, it's like an inner confidence almost that you have to have, with the dreamer, but realistic. So I think you got a good mix there. I want to get back to Dugout Mugs for a second. You guys were officially licensed by Major League Baseball, which is a huge accomplishment. How did that all go down with them? And how long did it take to get them on board?
We went to the MLB winter meetings in 2017. And that's when that's the first realization that I had that nobody was really doing anything unique or creative or like nothing. It was all just a bunch of tchotchkes, like everybody just trying to rip each other off with like different lanyards. It was a trade show.
Right.
And so I was looking around and I was like, man, everything here there's nothing unique about it. Like we're legitimately like doing something that is pretty freaking, I feel like a weirdo saying it, but exceptional. Like there's nobody else doing anything like we're doing. And the hype and the buzz of it showed from our booth. We were in a 10 by 10 booth, a couple guys just trying to figure out what the hell is actually going on. And the absurdity of how many people were coming and checking out our stuff, to the point where like there was a line coming out of the booth and to the guy that was across from us that we ended up becoming friendly with. And he's like, hey, thanks for last night. Cause he had to have a clicker and tell his boss how many people came into the booth. He's like, because of you guys, I got some people coming overflowing into my booth. It was nuts. It was almost like, I mean, we've been in business for a year and a half, but it was almost like Dugout Mugs' coming out party, because the winter meetings is everybody within baseball's there. And at that time we had a Major League Baseball Players Association license, so we could use the players' names, signatures, and likeness.
Nice.
And we did really well with that. And somebody from Major League Baseball was there, and that's kind of what started the conversation. thinking that it would make a whole lot of sense if we were able to put MLB marks on our products.
Yeah, no, for sure. That's a huge get. And then that also kind of led to what seemed like other deals like Budweiser, DraftKings, Body Armor, Coca-Cola, Barstool Sports, all that stuff. So what's it been like for you to partner with other brands? Now you're kind of getting really out there.
Yeah, we are. I mean, that's what we're ultimately just trying to put our logo on the moon, just get everybody to know who we are. And I would be lying to say, like, Chris and I have worked incredibly hard, and then our team, past and present, has worked really hard. But we are blessed in the sense of we are doing something different, and that intrigues people, and and people want to get involved with us. So as much of our efforts are like chasing these people down and making stuff like this happen, it's also it's coming at us from people wanting to collaborate with us. And that's what's kind of interesting, that once you kind of start hitting a certain stride of business and you start doing things in a certain way, people start seeking you out. And I think that's where real scale starts to come into play.
Gotcha. I do want to do a couple of quick hitters, and then we'll get to your announcements of what's available now. So just some fun ones. What is your favorite beer to drink in your Dugout mug?
Oh man, so I used to be a strictly Miller Lite guy.
Okay.
Which is not good for the brand, obviously. Like
you got to be a Budweiser guy now.
Right. Either a Budweiser guy or like you think craft mug, craft beer. And right. I went hard in the craft beer game, and it just tore my stomach up. So I got to go with Old Faithful. I got to put a Miller Lite in my in my Dugout mug.
Fair enough. Which engraved team mug is the most popular?
The Yankees by far.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yankees hat and bat, the circle logo with the hat and bat, not even the standard like NY.
Oh, okay.
Yankees circle hat and bat is by far our best seller.
Gotcha. I saw you guys have a wine line as well. Wine glass, or not glass, but wine mug line, right?
Yeah, we call it the wind up. So it's if you just I was scrolling through Facebook and I saw an ad by not Dovetail, Canadian company, Sam Bats. I saw an ad from Sam Bats of somebody talking about one of their baseball bats, and they had a glove mallet sitting up on the table with like the handle on the table, just like almost like the exact shape of our wine mugs. And I was scrolling through and it stopped me in my tracks. And this was like 3 or 4 years ago, maybe 5 years ago. And I was like, oh my God, somebody created a mini baseball bat wine glass. Look at that thing. And it wasn't, it was a glove mallet, but I said, all right, well, we're going to create that. And, and that's how the wind up came to be.
How's that one going so far?
So like sales volume, it's our second bestseller. Quantity wise, the shot glass, where we take the knob of a baseball bat and turn it into a shot glass, we sell a lot of those, but it's at such a lower price point than the wind up that the higher scale for price, or higher scale for sales for the wind up, but more quantity for the shot glasses.
Gotcha. Okay. So let's talk about your stainless steel line of mugs, which is kind of an ode to the aluminum bat back in the day, I guess, for the younger kids. But tell us about that and how long you guys have had that out and what you're looking for with that.
It's brand new. We started pre-selling them in August.
Oh, so just recently.
Yeah, just recently. We've been working on it for maybe 9 or 10 months. And to me, it seems like the most obvious progression of this thing. And yeah, what we've done is designed a stainless steel drinking vessel to replicate or look like a metal bat barrel. It holds 20 ounces. It's got a screw on lid. It's double wall vacuum sealed, so it holds ice forever. It keeps heat forever. Not literally forever, but
right.
Long enough. Yeah, hopefully. But yeah, it's we're just calling it the Metal Dugout Mug. And MLB gave us the license to be able to print onto those. I think they've turned out really, really cool. I think it's dugoutmugs.com/metal to be able to check those out. We're still pre-selling them, but yeah, so far so good. People seem to love them, and it just seems super obvious that's what we would do next.
Sure, that totally makes sense. I was curious about the wooden mugs. Like, how do they? Obviously, there's like a sealant on it or something like that, but how do they stay cold like a stainless steel mug would?
To my understanding, wood is one, a really great insulator, and two, if you ever come across like a beer bottle, most beer bottles aren't, with like the exception of Corona and some others, most beer bottles aren't just clear glass, because the darker the glass is, the less sunlight that gets into it, and therefore keeps it cooler and fresher longer. So the same thing with a wood mug, it actually keeps drinks colder longer because sun can't penetrate it.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Outside, I know you guys just dropped the stainless steel line, but what else is kind of on the horizon for you guys? Do you have any plans, other plans for the future? That any big drops coming?
So at some point during the fourth quarter, we're going to bring back short stops, which are just a shorter version of our dugout mug. We think of them as maybe like a whiskey glass type thing, coffee maybe, or maybe even a kid style mug. But I think the metal dugout mug is going to really kind of cover the whole kid side of things.
Right.
But yeah, there's a few other things that we're throwing around, but for the most part, I think we're going to try to go really, really deep with the metal mugs, and give that as much hell as we can before we get any more wide. I think we're plenty wide. It's just now it's time to really, really go deep.
Sure.
So we'll there's a few things that we're throwing around that we might do, but for the most part, I think we're gonna just try to get deep.
Now, are you guys selling these in stadiums too?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. All 30 stadiums. The metal mugs are only in 3 stadiums so far, but the wood mugs were in all 30.
And then I know you can order them for like bachelor parties or whatever. You can do like groomsmen gifts or, all that stuff. So now you're beyond just major league teams. You can engrave anything really, right?
Yeah. One of our best sellers is when Father's Day rolls around, we can take a photo and do some magic to it to where we can engrave it onto the mug.
Sure.
So that does really well for us.
Last thing, I saw something funny on the frequently asked questions. It says that you can possibly bring your mug into a major league stadium and they might allow you to use it.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah. So, we actually get this question. Our customer service side of things gets this question all the time.
Yeah.
Like, if I buy this, can I bring this into a stadium? Some stadiums have no problem with it. We've run into stadiums that won't allow people. And then we go to those buyers and we say, hey, what's the deal? You sell them in your stadium. Why can't they bring them in? But there's so much disconnect between the buyer versus this person. So we kind of do it to just cover our own ass.
Sure.
But yeah, some stadiums will let them, but some won't.
Gotcha. Okay. So where can everybody find you guys online or follow along on social media, all that stuff?
Dugoutmugs.com online, and anywhere on social media, Dugout Mugs, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. And this month we're doing Signatures September, where we have a bunch of autograph stuff from a bunch of different guys, big league guys. If you text super, the word super, SUPER, to 85311, it'll enter you in for that giveaway. And Mariano Rivera signed balls, Pete
Nice.
Rose signed balls, all sorts of cool stuff.
Very cool. Well, it sounds like things are going great, and congrats on your recent success. And everybody has to go check out Dugout Mugs. So thanks for being on the show today, man.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for helping us spread the word.
You got it. My thanks to Randall Thompson. Hope you guys enjoyed the episode, and go ahead and head over to dugoutmugs.com, or you can follow them on social media if you want a special engraved cup. If your favorite team, you want to give a new wind up, as they call it, for the wine mugs or wine glasses, check those out, dugoutmugs.com. If you have any questions, hit me up, feel free, and I'll get you some answers. But please go check out dugoutmugs.com. As always, you can follow me at Too Tall Sports Podcast. That's on Instagram. I do a lot of new content there, a lot of cool videos. I'm starting to do series about stadiums I've played in. I'm going to do probably a series about the best minor league food, not at the ballparks, but the affordable food for us broke minor leaguers. So I might do a series on that soon, but go ahead and follow me on Instagram at Too Tall Sports Podcast. On Twitter, it's at Too Tall Sports. Head on over to our YouTube page if you want to watch the interviews as well. Just type in Too Tall Sports Podcast. Please subscribe and leave a review, leave a comment, like, share it, whatever you got to do. We'd really appreciate more subscribers on our YouTube channel. We release episodes every Thursday morning at 9 a.m. Check out YouTube for that. On the audio side, it's Apple. You can go to Too Tall Sports Podcast on Apple Podcasts. Scroll all the way down if you could. Hit the 5 stars. We'd really appreciate it. That would help boost the show, give us some more exposure. Also, leaving a review underneath the stars does help as well. So please do so. We'd love to share it. Love to have you share our stuff. If you're enjoying the content, that's the least you could do. We really appreciate it. We're also on Spotify. Same thing there. Just follow along, Too Tall Sports Podcast. We're on Amazon. We're on Pandora. We're on Google Play. Everywhere you get your podcasts, you can find us. Just type in Too Tall Sports Podcast. Hope you have a great day, and I will talk to you soon.